You know, with everything that's going on in the Methodist Church, it's easy to get distracted and depressed. You know, as I was putting this particular message together, I say, I think I beat the other horse all I can beat it. It's time to stop beating on it, and because it gets us distracted and depressed. So hopefully this will be a little bit more uplifting. But let me say this, you got to be informed. I think people need to be informed, and that's the reason you get periodically something from me, keeping you informed. Because I heard something about a pastor that's not saying anything to their congregation. Shame on them, because this is all, what's going on, Pastor? How come you didn't tell us about this? You know. But anyway, with everything that's going on, it can't be a distraction. And if you couple that with any personal problems, anybody got any personal problems that might be going on? Yeah. You know, personal problems can be relatively simple, but a problem is a problem, and it can be very complex. But whatever that case, it might be easy easy to lose focus. I'm guilty of that. I don't, every hour, turn my focus, keep my focus on Jesus. You know, it's in that situation we find ourselves doing that, it's easy to forget what we're supposed to be doing as Christians. Because I already went through all that. This, you know, you get distracted and depressed and maybe even angry at the situation. Then you say, well, there's this side of the situation and there's a side that's wrong and all this kind of stuff. Okay. And then you find yourself being unchristian. You find yourself there. Me, I feel that way at times. And as a church, we cannot be preoccupied with those kind of things as a church. And you'll hear more about what we're to do as a church, you know, in the next few weeks. But we have to remember to always keep your eyes on Jesus. Now, we know we can't see Jesus. We might see Jesus in a dream. We might see him in a vision. We might look at a picture. We might see a movie. Well, if I read those red letter words in there, Hobie, that's sort of like seeing Jesus, ain't it?
Yeah.
See those red letter words? I remember as a kid when I learned that. Well, that's the words of Jesus. All right. That's a big deal. I remember learning that as a kid in Sunday school. That's the words of Jesus. Again, we got to keep our eyes on Jesus. In a famous sea story, that's what Peter failed to do. He failed to keep his eyes on Jesus. Now, instead of reading you a lot of lengthy passages of Scripture, I'm going to sort of give you the setting of this. It's a very familiar story. This happened right after the feeding of the 5,000. Everybody knows that story. If you've been in church any amount of time, any Sunday school class as a kid, you know about the feeding of the 5,000 with a couple of fish and a few loaves of bread. It was a miracle. And the food just multiplied, and 5,000 people were fed. Right after that, if you look in Scripture, it says immediately after that, Jesus tells his disciples, I want y'all to go across the Sea of Galilee. I'm going to go up here by myself and pray. Now, you can read between the lines. You know, we got to remember, even though Jesus is God in the flesh, he's a human being. He had a human body. He was God in a human body that got tired. Need to be refreshed. He was, could you imagine 5,000 people running around? Hey, Jesus, oh, Jesus. You know, I got to get away. And that's Mr. Blaine's reading between the lines. You might not see it that way, but I got to get away. He goes off praying, and he sends the disciples across the Sea of Galilee. I think he tells these, I'm going to meet you on the other side. All right? So, they go out across the Sea of Galilee. And a storm comes up. And of course, they are afraid. In that storm, they see this ghostly, Matthew tells us, a ghostly, they perceive a ghostly light figure coming across the water. To their relief, they figure out that it's Jesus himself walking on the water. They done seen a few fish and a little bit of bread multiplied to feed 5,000. Then they see him walking on water. All right? That's the setting. And he's coming to save them. Remember, there's a storm going on. Let's pick it up in Matthew 14, verse 28 through 33. And Peter said to him, like you and I, got out of the boat and starts walking on the water. But seeing the wind, he became afraid and began to sink. He cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand, took hold of him, and said to him, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind stopped. And those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, You are certainly God's Son. I know what it's like. Personally, I know what it's like to be in rough seas. Y'all have heard me tell my sea stories from time to time. I can remember the North Sea. It's notoriously rough and cold. I mean, this is a 438-foot, 35-foot wide ship, tossing and turning. I've seen it. I've lived in it. I've experienced it. So bad that you could not go out on deck. You know, going out looking on the deck and you'll get washed overboard. And waves coming over the bow. Difficult to eat. You're sitting in a chair and you've got your arm around your tray, whatever right hand you are, you're doing this, trying to keep your tray and your food from sliding back and forth. You know, I remember that. Walk around. I mean, you couldn't walk from here to the door without, you know, if the ship takes a turn one way or the other. Seasickness. Couldn't go and throw the garbage out. That's what they used to do back then. They don't do it no more. I don't think they recycle it. But the garbage stacked up and all that. I've seen that. I know what it's like to be terrified. I know what it's like to be rough seas. I know it's scary. It's scary. But in this story, going back to the story, the disciples, we see, they began to really understand who Jesus is. There's a lot in this. And you could preach this all different ways. But in this, they say, my goodness, this man walked on water. We've already seen him with that miracle of feeding a bunch of people with just a little bit of food. Now he walks on the water, and he even gives Peter the authority. Says, yes, come on, Peter, you can walk on the water too. They said, this man must be the Son of God. You got to put this in context. This is before the transfiguration, which is, if you read on in Matthew a couple more chapters, where they go up, Peter, James, and John, and go up with Christ up on the high mountain, and they see God and Moses and Christ is transfigured before their eyes. They know beyond a shadow of doubt who he is. But see, they're getting a little bit, as they see these miracles, they see him walking on the water. See Peter walking on the water. They see who Christ is. For us, I see three things. There might be more than that. You might see more. Number one, keep your eyes on Jesus, no matter what's going on. No matter what's going on around you. Blaine, keep your eyes on Jesus. And don't worry about what's going on around you. Yeah, you may have to deal with it. You may have to do it eventually down the road. There might be some decisions have to be made. But keep your eyes on Jesus. Number two, if you ask Jesus, he'll save you. calm any storm that you're in? How many, we live in thunderstorm. Gosh, you're a golfer. Out there with a whacking around with them metal rods and all that kind of stuff. But, we most of us have grown up with thunderstorms around us. I tell you what, every time the thunder and lightning happen, I say, Lord, please spare our house. Don't let the lightning strike our house. I don't want it to burn down from a lightning strike. I got one of those high-pitched roofs. Yeah, I say that. Lord, calm the storm. When we have storms in life, don't you think if he can do that with nature, he can calm a storm in your life? Now, none of us will probably ever walk on water. Most likely, if I ever fall overboard, Lord, I pray that I do. But most likely not. But we will face storms in life. You may be facing a storm right now and need Jesus more than ever. Like the Peter situation, like guys in the boat, he'll come to you. See, that's what happens. The storms are swirling around us and we don't ask him to come to us. Or we forget that he's willing to come to us. When he does, and he will, if you ask, be sure to keep your eyes on him. See, that's what happened. Peter looked wild. You can get into the faith part of it and all that, of that. And, and I can see Peter, I can see him walking with his eyes fixed on Jesus. He's walking on that water. He's walking on that water. And all of a sudden he said, oh my goodness, I'm in a terrible situation here. Oh my goodness, I'm taking my eyes off Jesus. And he sinks. And then of course Jesus is out there to pluck him up out of the water. I tell you, it's easy to get distracted. It is easy to get distracted. All our lives are filled with distractions. It's things we have to deal with. It's things we have to deal with. I understand that. It's easy to get distracted. But we shouldn't let ourselves get distracted. We should return our focus back to Christ. If you do get too distracted, Jesus will say, and again, this cuts two ways. Y'all know this. I've said it many, many times, and I'll say it many, many more times. He will also save your soul from eternal damnation. There's that saved and there's that saved. He saved Peter. Peter probably would have drowned. I guess. I would think so, but he was sinking. I remember they used to tell us, when, talking about rough seas, we used to have to take on fuel. You ever take on fuel in rough seas? Two ships side by side, going along at the same speed, and the ship rocking and you know what I got to do? I got to stand up there and hold a phone line thing going between two ships. And we even did it at night. You know what they used to give us? These little neon glow sticks. Maybe the very first time I did that, what are these for? I said, well, if you go overboard, we have a better chance of finding you. Or you're floating around out there in that water with that little glow stick on. We used to do that stuff. They train to do that. Boy, I got off track of that. With the political storms, the the storms of the Methodist Church that are going on, personal storms, that, like I said, I talked about. It is easy to take your eyes off Jesus. I mean, I want to say that again. It is easy to take your eyes off Jesus. It is easy to lose faith. It is easy to get distracted. But no matter how frightening the storms may be, I'm going to say it probably a couple more times, keep your eyes on Jesus. Let's read in Hebrews chapter 12. This comes right after the famous chapter 11, which is a lot of people call the Hall of Fame of Faith. It lists all the great men and women of faith that had great faith in the Old Testament. And the writer of Hebrews starts out in we're going to read verses 1 and 2 in chapter 12. It said, "Therefore, since we have a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every encumbrance. Let's lay aside every distraction and the sin which so easily entangles us. And let us run with endurance the race that He has set before us." We have a race set before us. There is a purpose, a race set before us as Christians individually and us as a church. Reading on in verse 2. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. Can I say, keeping our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before Him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Those two verses, I think, are very easy to understand. I don't want to keep just repeating myself, but I guess that's what preachers do sometimes. Jesus will come to you no matter how stormy it gets. Just keep your eyes on Him. He will come to you. The storms of life